You're standing at the edge of the deepest place on Earth. You can't see it. No one can. It's hidden beneath nearly 7 miles of cold, black ocean, in a wound in the seafloor so deep that if you dropped Mount Everest into it, the peak would still sit more than a mile underwater. We've sent 12 people to walk on the moon. We've landed robots on Mars and watched them send back photos. But the very bottom of the Mariana Trench, only 3 human beings have ever been there. More people have stood on the moon than at the bottom of our own ocean. So what's actually down there? Here's the strange part. We have detailed maps of the surface of Mars, of the moon, even of Venus. But more than 80% of our own ocean floor has never been mapped in real detail. The deepest point on the planet sits in our own backyard, and for almost all of human history, no one had any idea what was waiting at the bottom. The Mariana Trench is a crescent-shaped scar in the western Pacific Ocean, east of the Philippines and south of Japan. It runs about 1,580 miles long, and at its lowest point, a narrow slot called Challenger Deep, the seafloor drops to roughly 35,876 feet, 10,935 meters below the surface. Let me put that number in your body. That's almost 7 miles straight down. Mount Everest stands 29,032 feet, 8,849 meters tall. Flip the tallest mountain on Earth upside down, sink it into Challenger Deep, and you'd still have over 6,000 feet of water sitting above the summit. It is the closest thing we have to another planet, and it's right here. For most of history, the trench was a rumor, a number on a chart. Then, in January 1960, 2 men decided to go look. Their names were Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh. Their vehicle was a strange steel sphere called the Trieste, a bathyscaphe, which is really just a deep-diving submarine built like a thick-walled bubble bolted under a giant tank of gasoline for buoyancy. The crew cabin was barely big enough for 2 men to stand shoulder to shoulder. On January 23rd, they began to sink. The descent took almost 5 hours. The light disappeared fast. A few hundred feet down, the warm blue was already gone. By 1,000 feet, it was night. And still they kept falling, deeper than any human had ever gone, into a darkness that had never once seen the sun. Then near the bottom, they heard a crack. A pane of the outer window had fractured under the pressure. Piccard and Walsh felt the whole vessel shudder. They were almost 7 miles down, with thousands of tons of water pressing in on every inch of the hull, and something had just broken. They made a choice. They kept going. And then the Trieste touched the bottom of the world. When the silt settled, Piccard looked out the window and saw something that changed everything. Lying on the floor of the deepest place on Earth was a flat, pale fish, a living animal, calmly resting on the seabed, in a place where the pressure should have flattened anything alive. Scientists still argue about exactly what he saw that day, but the message was unmistakable. The bottom of the ocean was not a dead, empty void. Something lived down here. To understand how impossible that is, you have to understand the pressure. At the surface, you carry the weight of the entire atmosphere on your shoulders, and you don't even feel it. But water is heavy. For every 33 feet, 10 meters you descend, the pressure increases by about 1 more atmosphere. By the time you reach the bottom of Challenger Deep, the water is pressing on you with more than 16,000 pounds per square inch. Let me translate that. That's over 1,000 times the pressure you feel right now. It's like balancing the weight of dozens of jumbo jets on a single square inch of your skin. If you rode an elevator straight to the bottom with no protection, you wouldn't drown slowly. You would be crushed in an instant, your lungs collapsed and your ribs caved in before your brain even registered the cold. Nothing about your body is built for this place. And yet life is. So how do they do it? The animals of the deep trench have rewritten the rules of survival. Many of them carry almost no air pockets inside their bodies, no swim bladders, no hollow spaces for the pressure to crush. Their cells are packed with special molecules that keep their proteins from being squeezed apart. They don't fight the pressure. They let it pass through them, like a ghost the ocean can't grab. Take the Mariana snailfish. It's small, pale, and almost see-through, with a body like soft jelly and no scales at all. It looks impossibly fragile. And it is the deepest living fish ever filmed, thriving more than 5 miles down in a place that would fold a steel submarine like a soda can. Or the giant amphipods. Up at the surface, their relatives are the size of your fingernail. Down here, in the cold and the dark with strange chemistry and no predators, some grow to nearly a foot long, swarming over anything that drifts down from above. And then there are the xenophyophores. Try saying that one. They're single-celled organisms, just one cell, that grow to the size of your fist. Picture a single living cell as big as an orange, carpeting the floor of the deepest trench on Earth. We didn't even know creatures like this could exist until we went down and looked. But here's the question that should be bothering you. If there's no sunlight down there, then there are no plants. And if there are no plants, what is anything eating? Up in the sunlit world, almost all life runs on photosynthesis, plants turning sunlight into food. But in the trench, the sun is a memory. The energy here comes from two strange sources. The first is called marine snow. It's a slow, constant drizzle of dead things, bits of plankton, fish scales, waste, the crumbs of everything that died in the bright water above, sinking endlessly into the dark. To the animals of the deep, this falling garbage is a feast. They wait, sometimes for weeks, for a single meal to drop from a world they will never see. The second source is even stranger. In 1977, scientists exploring deep volcanic ridges in the famous research submersible Alvin, operated by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, found something no one had predicted. Cracks in the seafloor pouring out superheated, mineral-rich water. Black, chimney-like towers and clustered around them, thriving in total darkness, were whole gardens of life, giant tube worms, ghostly crabs, fields of clams. These creatures weren't living on sunlight at all. They were living on chemistry, bacteria turning the minerals gushing from the Earth's crust into food, a process called chemosynthesis. Life, it turned out, never needed the sun. It just needed energy, and the planet has more than one way to provide it. For 52 years after Pickard and Walsh, no human went back. The bottom of the world was, once again, untouched. Then, in 2012, a single man climbed into a lime-green submarine he had helped design and sank alone into Challenger Deep. His name was James Cameron, yes, the film director, and his vehicle, the Deep-Sea Challenger, carried him to the bottom for hours of solo exploration. He described a desolate, moon-like plain. Silent, alien, and completely his. A few years later, an investor and explorer named Victor Vescovo took it even further. In a submersible called the Limiting Factor, he dove to the bottom of Challenger Deep not once, but several times, as part of an expedition to reach the deepest point of every ocean on Earth. And at the bottom, in the deepest place a human has ever stood, he reported seeing something that should stop you cold. A plastic bag and candy wrappers. We had finally reached the most remote point on the planet, and our trash had beaten us there. And this is the part most people get completely wrong about the deep. You probably imagine the bottom of the ocean as a graveyard. Empty, lifeless, the end of everything, but the truth is almost the opposite. The deep sea is the largest living space on Earth. It holds more room for life than every forest, desert, and grassland on the surface combined. We have named only a sliver of the species that live down there. Nearly every modern deep expedition, every drop of the research ship Falker and its robot Sue Bastion into the dark, comes back with animals no human has ever seen before. The bottom of the Mariana Trench isn't the edge of life. It might be where life is hiding. Think about that the next time you look at a map of the world. All those familiar coastlines and continents, that's just the thin skin of the planet, the part touched by light. Below it lies a second world, far larger, almost entirely unexplored, full of animals that have never seen the sun and never will. We've photographed the far side of the moon. We've driven across the surface of Mars. But the deepest point of our own planet has been visited by fewer people than have flown into space. So the next time someone tells you we've explored the whole world, remember where you started this video. You were standing at the edge of the deepest place on Earth. You couldn't see it. No one can. And almost 7 miles below your feet, in the cold and the black and the crushing dark, something is alive down there right now, waiting in a world we have barely begun to find. We've sent 12 people to the moon. Only 3 have ever stood at the bottom of our own ocean. What else are we missing?